Welcome to the $1 Million Mortgage Experience. I am Jon Maddux. I'm here with Andy Dane Carter. How's it going, Andy?
It is going well, my friend.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me back.
Definitely, man. It's been great to see your progress. That you're out there crushing it. That's amazing. So our listeners, of course, are all mortgage people, as you know. Mm-hmm. You're in the real estate game and the media game, and just out there, getting awareness out to people. And you own a bunch. You wrote a book called. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. The book is called 100 Doors, and it's basically the blueprint for you to not buy a house first. That's just my humble opinion. I think you should buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex and use all of these incredible things that this particular country has for your advantage. And then after a year or two, you do like a little refi, you pull out some of the equity, and then you go buy a house. And now you have an incredible income property and a home. Now you have both. So now you're an investor and you're actually starting your wealth journey. Which is kind of backwards. It's backwards. Yeah. Everything I do basically in life is usually backwards. So I figured, why not write a book about the backwards way?
I like it.
And
that's cool.
It's just a smarter way to do it. And it's just a hedge as well. Like it just really hedges. It's so much easier to
You're buying an asset.
You're buying a hard asset.
Income producing asset.
Like 3 other families are going to help you pay off.
Right.
That's a good
It's
play.
Powerful.
Especially when the market turns.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to have a safe place to create at your house, or if you lose your job, you're not completely underwater.
Absolutely. So you own some rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
And your base, like the people that follow you, your sphere, are out there probably doing what you're doing and kind of following what you're doing. And you can build, amazing net worth. You can build like income that just is like mailbox money, right?
Cash flow is the best.
Who doesn't like mailbox money?
It's the best.
Come into your mailbox, here's my money. Yeah, and then when other people pay your rent for you, that's incredible.
Yes.
I remember when I bought my first house, I didn't do it the backwards way, but I did have like 3 roommates. They were all contributing towards my mortgage. Yeah. And I thought that was being genius, right?
It's a great move, especially there's so many programs out there, like as you know, where save some of your capital, save some of your cash, and so you can do other stuff with it, especially, if you're, I don't know, like some kind of entrepreneur and you're trying to actually build some stuff, you're going to need some gunpowder. Yeah,
I think a lot of what I've been seeing, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I have a 13-year-old and they watch YouTube nonstop. That's all they watch. They don't want to watch TV.
That's right.
I have to twist their arm. Let's watch some of this. They no, I'm just watching YouTube. But so their awareness, their eyeballs, their attention is all on YouTube. But these YouTube influencers and Instagram, Facebook, all the social media influencers, they're making money. And there was an article that came out, a tragedy actually in San Diego, where one of the I think it was a guy that was he was a video gamer, right? He was playing, I forget what game he was playing, but it was on Twitch. He was making tons of money, and he bought a McLaren with his money, and he was driving it the wrong way. I think he got cut off YouTube or something, and cut off his income streams, and he crashed, fatal crash. But this guy ended up buying with his money, went out and spent it on something that was a depreciating asset, not a appreciating asset.
So you just leave the lot.
Yeah, and it sucks that we have to use him as an example, but there's others out there that are doing the same thing. I think they're out there buying flashy cars, they're being fancy, buying watches, they're trying to show that they're, making all this money, where they could take that and they could invest it back into their business by buying the building that their business is in, which in turn is actually a duplex or triplex. They could have, the place they live in, they could have the next unit is someone else renting, the next unit on that is their office, and putting their money back into that. Unpack that a little bit.
That's where all of this stuff is going, because it makes no sense to have these humongous offices if you're a startup, you're a smaller company. It's a giant waste of money. But if you can move that cash into your asset, so now your home and your office are all in the same place, like that particular asset is getting ridiculously paid off quickly. And then
plus the tax write-off.
The huge tax breaks, exactly. Right. And here's the thing. I like cars. I like fast cars.
And motorcycles.
I love motorcycles. And I like, things and watches too. But I let my tenants give them to me. And they don't give them to me as like a Christmas gift.
No.
But what they do is they give it to me in cash flow. They give it to me as all my buildings go up in equity. I can go out and buy whatever car I want. I don't. I have a nice car, but
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want because my tenants have given me those options.
That's right. I mean, and that's just putting, smart money versus dumb money. You're putting your money to work for you versus...
It's the smart debt versus bad debt, which a lot of people talk about. Nobody talks about it in school. Real estate, I still have yet to find a better place for that to happen. There's just so many smart ways to use. I mean, even as low as $25,000. I don't care who you are. You can save $25,000 in 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you can go buy a $700,000 fourplex.
Yeah. The FHA loan.
FHA loan, 3.5% down, live in one of the units very comfortably, and that will be worth probably $12 million in 30 years when you're getting ready to retire. So if you just bought one building, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so I just had a conversation with this gentleman who's 80-something years old. He bought this house in...
Wait, was his name Bob?
His name was not Bob, but it's close because I have a lot of Bobs. He actually looks like a Bob. He bought a building. It was a house in PB for $100,000. And then when he retired, he had bought all the houses on the street. And he retired with hundreds of millions.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I remember that many years ago when I was getting into this business. I remember sitting down. You can learn a lot from old people.
I spend a lot of time with old people, especially guys that have seen 3 and 4 real estate cycles.
Yes.
It's a smart place to have conversations.
A lot of young people don't want to hang out with the old grandpas, but I love sitting and talking to them because I always ask, so when did you buy your first house? And they tell you they're happy to, they're just happy someone's talking to them. But they'll say, I remember one he bought in, I think it was Point Loma. He spent $25,000, $30,000 on a house. Yeah, and now it's worth $1 million, something like that. And no, it's worth more than that, I think. But I was just like, why in the world would you not buy real estate? We know inflation is going to continue to happen, 100%. And that's the number one reason we got to you got to look at the graphs of appreciation over the 30, 40, 50 years. It's always up, right? There's always going to be the downs. Always. There's going to be little hiccups, downs, and then there's the big downs when it's a bad year or a bad, recession. But it always goes up. It has to because of just the nature of inflation and how that works. So, yeah, people need to be buying more real estate.
Buy more real estate. Here's why you shouldn't buy real estate here in this country. If you think something's going to happen to the country and for some reason it's not going to be here in 20 years. If you think the U.S. is going to be here in 20 years, you should be buying as much real estate as you can. I don't care what the climate of the market. Right. And I've talked to a lot of old people that have seen a bunch of cycles, that own a lot of stuff. Every conversation has the same sub-conversation at some point. They tell me about the one they should have bought. They tell me about the regret. The regret is constant with all of these all these older folks, men and women. They're like, I should have bought this one.
Yep, I could have if I would have done this.
But I just should have, and I didn't. Right. You never hear about the person. I'm so pissed that I bought that house 30 years ago.
No, never.
It doesn't happen.
No. So I think what's been fascinating me and making me obsessed lately is what are, we just saw Jake Paul, dare I say his name on
Sure, go ahead.
on buy a house, and he used Zillow, right? Yep. Which is very telling of his demographic. But he used Zillow, and then I think he paid cash for the house, right?
But waste of money.
Yeah, I mean, and they don't understand the value of leverage, right? So what I'm thinking is, and I'm obsessed with, is what if these people that are making all this money, and we go back to what I just said about buying cars and fancy things, but I've realized that they just don't know how to get financing.
They don't have any intel, and they're getting bad advice.
Yeah, and they think they go into a bank, or maybe their dad or mom or their uncle, or you need to go down to the Wells Fargo and open an account and then tell them you want to apply for a loan. They're gonna get turned down because their tax returns, they're not showing shit.
That's right.
So the thing that's been keeping me up and going crazy in my mind is how do we get the awareness out to the people that are out there making this income? They're getting deposits into their bank account. They're getting large deposits. Some of these YouTube views will pay out a lot of money. And they don't, it's like, well, if I can't get a loan for a house, I'm just going to go buy a fucking $250,000 car.
Right.
Instead of just saying, well, I could take that $250,000 and I could buy 3 or 4 houses with that or more.
Yeah. And then here's the beauty of that is you can actually do that and you can qualify from just your bank statements.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have, I don't know how much in equity, probably right away. Or there's a cool trick. You could raise everybody's rents a little bit, and then you could suck out the cash you just put down. So now your cash on cash investment for that particular asset is zero.
Right.
And then go buy a Ferrari. With that money, you just refi'd out.
Yeah.
Or just like make sure that the building is going to be making between $1,800 and $2,200 in cash flow, and then you take that cash and use that to buy the Ferrari. So now you're at like a break even with the asset, but it's actually paying for your car as well. Like, they don't teach any of this stuff.
Nope.
It's not taught anywhere. And if you don't have somebody that literally is either deep into the business, you're out.
Right.
And a lot of these guys pay top dollar for advice from just the wrong people.
Yeah. And those people they're not aware of the products that are out there. So, the programs that we use are, little plug here obviously, is 12 months or 24 months bank statements. We just look at the deposits, and we'll take 100% of all the deposits on a personal bank statement. But if it's a business bank statement, obviously there's going to be some expenses, so we take an expense ratio to that. But there are ways that people can get that leverage, and it's not. The last podcast we did with Barry Habib, who you just met, his whole thing is he's got this whole chart that tells you the cost of waiting and not buying, or the cost of
those are beautiful.
The missed opportunities, right? And so like what I think people are doing is they're wasting that money. It's just like throwing money away, pissing it away. And they could literally go out and just, if they had the right program, they could put 10% down, maybe 15, whatever, and buy a duplex, triplex, and just do exactly what you were saying on your book.
Missed opportunity is like poison to me. I see it so often, especially people from 18 to 35. It's just bad information, which leads to bad decisions, which leads to really bad positions in the market.
Right.
When it doesn't have to happen. Like,
True.
You can use those bank statements from all of your YouTube marketing money that's coming in, or whatever you do for a living.
Right.
And get yourself in a good position.
Yeah. And multiple sources. I think a lot of people today, going back to that statistic I read in Forbes, by 2020, half of our working, the U.S. Workforce will have some element of freelancing.
That's the first time in this country's history. Like, big changes are happening right now across the globe in a lot of different industries.
Yeah.
And it's going to shake up the real estate market pretty heavily.
Absolutely.
But there's massive opportunities. But you got to know where to go get the intel.
Yeah. And with that, like today, to learn how to become an entrepreneur is easier than ever. You can go on, right? You can go on LegalZoom. It's not that expensive to start a corp.
Yeah.
You can go open an account for very little. You can go onto YouTube, find out anything you want. Like, even 15 years ago, you couldn't, if you wanted to learn piano or wanted to learn how to build something, you'd have to go hire someone to teach you, and it would cost lots of money, right? Like, only rich people could learn all these things,
That's
right? Now you can go on YouTube, and for free, you can learn how to become an entrepreneur. You can learn how to do anything you want. And then you can go market yourself. If you really drill down, I know you know how to do this. A lot of our listeners probably don't know how to drill down on marketing with the social media, but it's so cheap. The fact that we can compete with like Pepsi and Levi, like, I don't even know if that's a gene anymore, but like
it is a huge stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
You can compete with those people with your small budget and see the same eyeballs that see that can see yours. Before they'd outspend you and put a billboard
millions on TV and billboards.
Right.
It's been the entire backbone for our entire media company. I can literally get you the same results for hundreds of thousands less.
It's insane.
And you can show them the hard metrics. So I don't care if you have a $3 budget a month or $3 million. Like, you're in the game. Right. And then you get to put like CEO and you're like sweet profile for Instagram, and I'm like founder, and I'm like, what'd you find? You didn't find anything. Come to me when you build something.
I got 1 million followers though that I bought.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. So the fact that there's going to be that many self-employed people, the fact that it's so easy, the barrier of entry is gone to become self-employed. Basically, anything that you love doing, you can do, and you could be. I think Gary Vee talked about you can be the the one that knows everything about that, whatever it is.
You have to be specific to your passion.
Yeah.
And that's a real way to leverage, because there's people that they want to know, like all this stuff. Like there's so many things for you to be a legitimate
How to make slime.
How to make slime. There's, again.
My kids love doing that.
And there's a couple of these girls, and I always forget their names. They're making like 13 to 14 million a year on YouTube because they have slime contracts with Disney now to just make slime at different places.
Yeah. So the fact that they're making this money versus, having to go through get a cast, like you'd have to go find an agent. You have to go get that, go to LA, do auditions and then you still wouldn't even make that much money.
Nope. And you would still be waiting tables until you're 40 trying to get just discovered.
Yeah.
When now all you need is a laptop and one of these and consistency.
Right.
And it's possible. So that for me has been really cool because it's literally just leveled the playing field. And if you want to make money and you come to this country with $3, you can. Mm-hmm. Or if you're a hustler, you can really triple down. I mean, I had no desire to create what I've created, but I also felt the market leaving me behind. So I tripled down 3 years ago and went all in.
So where do you find your customers?
Everywhere. And that's been the beauty of me just leading with my brand is now they're starting to come to you. Now they've come to me. Yeah.
So you've created, basically awareness of you and what you do, and then that just attracts. It's a law of attraction, right? Like people see what you're doing, they want to work with you. They want to. You're giving out knowledge like for free.
Tons of it.
And that goes a long way. Because people see the value in what you're doing, and then at that point they want to. So I think for our listeners, I mean, that's something that we all need to do more of, is to give more and create value, right? Like
it's the secret sauce. Like if you give more than you ever take, you'll always be successful. If you are wildly grateful for what you currently have, just like it doesn't matter if you have nothing or if you have a lot. If you're just constantly grateful.
Yeah.
I can't explain it.
You don't have anything. You have any needs.
Everything just opens up.
Yeah.
And it's this really, kind of soft energy where it's not like ego, and it's just like, cool, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because you stay in this really cool place of balance.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, how would you say for someone who's a mortgage person, what would your advice be to obviously give, but to get the awareness out about what you do? Like I know you said we talked about a little bit of Instagram, a little bit of social media. I mean, to me, not to answer your question for you, but it just takes a little effort, right? Just to go out and learn how to do this stuff.
It's like a cell phone like this. Here's what I would do, is I would go like this 3 to 4 times a day and be like, hey, I just read this crazy article about this. It's going to change my business. If you want to know more, shoot over to my... that's it.
Yeah.
That's going to take you 25 seconds. And over time, you're going to build this cool thing called trust in the market.
Right. and then, it's kind of like when you run into a celebrity in a restaurant or something, and you feel like you know them.
Of course.
And they're like, I've never met you before, but you're like, hey, because you've seen so much stuff on them. And then same way, that same principle applies to this.
It's the same thing with all these huge brands like Target. Right. Like Mercedes, like whatever. You know what you're going to get before you get there. Right. Because they've built brand awareness and trust in market, right? So
especially in the financial
world, because that's huge for people, but you have to be that guy or gal for them. And it doesn't happen in a week because you're like, I put out 6 videos and no one called.
Yeah. It doesn't happen like that. No.
But you have to build it.
I think also it'd be good advice to say keep it short and sweet, right?
27 seconds or less.
Yeah.
We test everything on Instagram. That is basically the rate for consumption. Anything past that gets passed up on. What's funny is because 12 months ago it was a minute. Yeah. And now it's 27 seconds. It's going to be 7 seconds pretty soon.
Pretty soon, yeah.
So you have to get out the message daily of what you're trying, and just share value. Just share the truth.
Talk about the rates today. Today the rates are at this, or
that's right.
Today the mortgage applications went up or went down, whatever. Just giving out some value, right?
Information.
And then your market will start seeing that you actually know something. Yes. You're not an idiot.
That's right.
And then want to ask you some questions. And I'd even say throw it out there, right? Like say, hey, ask me some questions. I'd love to answer your questions. This is what I do. I'm a somewhat of an expert in mortgages. So, throw out a question to me and I'll be happy to answer it. I could be your resource. And then, I think it seems so hard sometimes to just do that simple thing.
But here's what we do as humans. We like to overcomplicate stuff because that's going to give us an out.
Right.
So if I make it all super hard and crazy, well, then I have an excuse not to do it because it was too hard.
Work.
Or if it failed, it's because, of course it didn't work.
Yeah.
But if you make it as easy as the cell phone, it's the same thing with the gym. Like, you have to set up these goals that are realistic. Like, don't say, I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours a day for 6 months. Because when you don't do it, then you're like going to fail, and then the guilt and kind of shame that goes with that. So make it easy and make it so you can actually do it. And then it's accomplishable goals, and then everything.
Because you say, I'm going to go to the gym for 10 minutes a day. You end up going, and you end up spending more. You're there for a half hour. Or you may be there for an hour.
It's consistency. It's the same thing with anything in life. Like, you don't just like swing to the gym and do a whole bunch of sit-ups and leave there with a six-pack.
No.
It takes reps. Like, everything in life takes reps. And a very easy way to get very comfortable in front of lights and cameras is to do them with your phone.
Yeah, you should have saw Jon T. Jon T. Is very. I'm sure you remember exactly what it was like the first time I got in front of the cameras. It's crazy, yeah.
So yeah, my guy Kyle, it was terrible. Yeah. Like, I was awful. I was uncomfortable. I didn't like it. And now I'm like, I don't know, 27 to 30 stories just on Instagram a day.
Yeah. Just takes time,
it takes
man.
reps.
Really, literally, I think the biggest thing that is tough for people to get is that things just, you got to be patient. Yeah. It's going to take time.
And it's not going backwards.
No.
For all of you like 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds listening, like, it's not going the other way. Like, I can't wait for the internet thing to not work anymore.
Yeah.
Like, nope. It's changed forever.
It's not stopping.
It's like the wheel. Now we can go faster.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, man. What are you seeing in the market right now? Should people be scared that values are going to crash?
I wouldn't say they're going to crash. I think for the first time in a long time, we actually have a normalized market. And from the metrics that I've seen, it happened like the first week in June when I got, some very weird math from across the country. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. And then I watched it in July and I'm like, well, that's interesting. And then I watched it in August. So now I have a full quarter of very interesting numbers in SoCal, in Florida, Texas, Ohio, like all across the country. I think the market is now starting to kind of realize, like, okay, we've been going up long enough.
Yep.
It's time to normalize and reset. I'm sure there's going to be a correction at some point. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of a dip. But if you're prepared for the dip, it is the biggest opportunity you will ever get.
Absolutely.
Every penny I have right now was from the biggest crash in 50 years.
Right. I think it was 75 years.
75, man. I hope it crashes tomorrow, to be perfectly honest with you, because I have a lot of tools to
go out and buy,
really take advantage of it.
Well, you can buy in this market, you can buy in the next market, you can buy in the market after that. You just,
you gotta hold. It's all in the acquisition, and if you can acquire the property right and then get the right loan on the asset,
right,
you can really put it into kind of second gear and just ride it out.
Well, especially if you're earning and you're doing what you're saying in your book. If you're earning monthly income, doesn't matter if it goes down.
I don't care if I lose money on paper. I still have a hard asset that's
what
not traded by the stock market.
What you want is that paying your principal down,
depreciation
for your taxes, and then that monthly mailbox money that's just coming in.
It's cash
while you're, doing whatever out there doing your Instagrams.
Yeah, I have 2 buildings, and those 2 buildings are just for my mortgage for my house for my family. So those 2 little buildings that I bought literally pay for my really nice house.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it. Like, I sleep a lot better knowing that my tenants are covering my biggest expense for my family.
Yeah.
And that feels good. So I just keep doing that over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And then you can, it doesn't matter if you buy 2 properties in your lifetime or you buy 200.
Yeah.
They're going to go up if you hold them.
Absolutely. And that's very good advice. So where do we find your book?
My book is free right now on my website, www.andydanecarter.com. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I have a YouTube channel that's called UNLOCKNOW with Andy Dane Carter, and I give away a ton of information for free, all of our tips and tricks and hacks. And then I have a podcast called Bulletproof Real Estate with Andy Dane Carter, where I talk a lot about real estate and investing and wholesaling and marketing and personal branding and health and being a good dad and all that good stuff.
That's awesome. Well, I hope that my listeners go and check you out, because I think you're giving away great stuff. And anyway, thanks again for listening to the $1 Million Mortgage Experience. We'll talk to you soon on the next episode.